DMK Minister K Ponmudy was raided by the Enforcement Directorate earlier this week. His cabinet colleague Senthil Balaji was arrested by the ED just weeks earlier in June. Opposition parties have been quick to condemn the raids against Ponmudy, with DMK ally the Congress calling it a predictable move by the Modi government to intimidate and divide the opposition. So why is the ED being accused of being a political tool of the union government? And is there any truth to these allegations? Let me explain. First, a quick look at how the Enforcement Directorate evolved. It was formed in 1956 and was first called the Enforcement Unit before the name changed to the Enforcement Directorate a year later. It came under the Department of Economic Affairs and handled cases relating to the violation of the foreign exchange law. Now the ED is a multidisciplinary organization mandated to investigate economic crimes, violations of the foreign exchange laws, and money laundering. It now comes under the administrative control of the Department of Revenue. So why is the ED accused of being a political tool of the union government? Let's look at the numbers. The Enforcement Directorate carried out over 3,000 raids under the Modi government between 2014 and 2022. This is nearly a 27-fold increase compared to the 112 raids that took place during the UPA regime between 2004 and 2014. This data, by the way, was provided by the union government in the Rajya Sabha. There is some truth to the opposition's accusations that the ED is being used by the Modi government to target and harass them. An Indian Express investigation in 2022 found that since the Modi government came to power in 2014, 115 out of the 121 politicians who faced ED action were in the opposition. That means 95% of politicians who were booked, raided, arrested, or questioned by the central agency were opposition leaders. But past governments as well have used the ED as a political tool, although not to this extent. The same Indian Express investigation found that under the UPA regime between 2004 and 2014, only 26 politicians were probed by the ED, and this included 14 from the opposition. So that means 54% of opposition leaders were targeted by the ED during the UPA tenure. But let's not forget that the CBI was routinely used during the UPA regime, so much so that critics called it the Congress Bureau of Investigation. There's more to the opposition's accusations about the ED. It is alleged that the central agency has gone slow on cases involving opposition leaders who defected to the BJP camp. Take for example Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma, who was in the Congress until 2015. He was being investigated by the ED and the CBI in the Sharda Chit Fund scam in 2014. A year later, he moved to the BJP. The opposition alleges that since he changed party loyalties, the ED and the CBI have gone soft on him, with no action taken against him. Similar allegations have also been leveled in cases involving West Bengal's leader of opposition, Sivendra Adhikari, Union Minister Narayan Rane, and several other opposition leaders who switched sides to the BJP. So what explains the huge number of ED cases under the Modi government? It's simple. The ED is seen as much more powerful than the CBI. And this is because the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, which the ED enforces, has been given more teeth over the years. There are at least 7 powers of the ED which sets it apart from other agencies. 1. The ED can probe an offence with or without the state government's consent. The Enforcement Directorate does not need the state government's permission to investigate a crime. The ED can take action based on an FIR filed by the local police station or based on a case registered by any agency, such as the CBI for example. This is in contrast to the CBI, which needs the consent of the state government before it can probe a crime in that state. Several states have in fact withdrawn general consent for the CBI, and this includes Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Jharkhand, Punjab, among others. The NIA, or the National Investigation Agency, can also enter into any state and arrest a person without the state government's permission. But the NIA can only investigate about a dozen offences. This brings me to point number 2. The ED has a wider scope to investigate. The agency can cast a wider net because the offences under the PMLA have been expanded. The ED can be on the money trail for offences ranging from terrorism, narcotics trafficking, corruption, to relatively minor ones like copyright infringement, software piracy, and even the hunting of wild animals. 3. Bail in ED cases is nearly impossible. All offences under the PMLA are non-bailable, meaning that bail is not a right and is at the discretion of the magistrate. The bar to get bail is very high when it comes to the PMLA. Under the Act, an arrested accused can be given bail only when the court is satisfied that the accused is not guilty of the offence. This basically means that the court has to decide whether an accused person is guilty or innocent even before the trial begins. The court must also be sure that the accused person won't commit a crime after bail is given, such as tampering with evidence or influencing witnesses, for example. This is why getting bail is nearly impossible in ED cases, with accused persons languishing in jail for months on end, even when the punishment ranges from 2 to 7 years. The process then is the punishment. 4. Statements made by an accused during an ED probe are admissible. The PMLA allows for statements made by an accused to an ED investigating officer admissible in court as evidence. No other act in India has provisions that allow for self-incrimination. For context, confessions made to police are not admissible in court. Only statements recorded before a magistrate are admissible. This provision in the PMLA was challenged in the Supreme Court, with petitioners arguing that it went against the fundamental right that protects citizens against self-incrimination. But in 2022, the top court ruled that this fundamental right does not apply at the stage of summons and may only apply after a formal arrest. 5. Guilty until proven innocent. In other crimes, an accused is presumed innocent until proven guilty. But the PMLA flips this legal principle. The burden of proof is not on the prosecution to prove the guilt of the accused, but on the accused to prove their innocence. 6. The accused need not be informed of the crimes they've been accused of. During the initial stages of investigation or during a raid, the ED is not bound to inform the accused of the crimes they've been accused of. And this is because the ED registers an enforcement case information report and not an FIR. The ED need not share this with the accused, with the Supreme Court ruling that this is an internal document unlike an FIR. At the time of arrest, the ED must only disclose the grounds for arrest. The accused is entitled to this report only after being produced before a court in order to be able to challenge their own imprisonment. 7. Powers to attach property. The ED has the powers to attach property and assets bought with the proceeds of the crime. This includes property directly or indirectly connected to the offence. The agency can do this even before charges are filed. Take the case of DMK Minister Ponmudy. On the second day of investigation, the ED attached fixed deposits worth 42 crore rupees. Under the PMLA, the ED needs to only prove that the property was bought with the proceeds of the crime and does not have to prove that the accused had an intention to launder money. These powers of the ED can deal a financial blow to any accused. These 7 special provisions or powers make the Enforcement Directorate not just a tool, but a political weapon against the ruling party's opponents. This is also why the ED may perhaps be the most feared agency today. That's all from me for this week, but before I go, a quick reminder to support independent news organizations like the News Minute. You can do so by becoming a member. Also subscribe to our YouTube channels. And as always, if you like this video, hit the like button and share this video with your friends.